Some are the ones that with everybody else. And your voting stuff.
What?
And like your voting panel is set up to.
Okay. We'll go ahead and begin. This is the October 17th, 2024 regularly scheduled City Council meeting for the City of Glenwood Springs. I'm here this evening. We'll go ahead and start with roll call.
Mayor Wusso,
Present.
Councilor Schachter,
Present.
Councilor Weimer, Councilor Zelinski. We have a quorum.
Agenda changes or conflicts? Any council announcements? Really quickly, before I do this next one, I just want the public to know that while there are 7 city councilors, typically, we do have, Councilor Cow resigned, and then 2 of our councilors are gone. But this does constitute quorum because it's 4 of the 7. So, I just wanted to double check everybody was aware of that. Okay, do we have any citizens appearing before council? This is for items not on this meeting's agenda. It doesn't look like anybody's here for that, so we'll go ahead and close it. It's a light. Yeah, right. We have it's a very quiet room, and we just have a few staff members in the back. I'll bring it back to council for an approval or a motion to approve the consent agenda.
Oh, okay. Counselor Zelinski.
I move to approve
the consent agenda. Okay, Counselor Weimer.
I will second that motion.
Okay, all those in favor?
Aye.
Any opposed? Motion passes unanimously. Okay. We'll go ahead and I think we need to get some staff in here
Yeah,
to do Southbridge.
you're up. Oh, the time's over.
Yeah.
Sorry.
Sorry about that.
He's got 20 seconds.
Council, I apologize for being late.
It's okay. We just blazed through that other part.
Well, hi, Ryan Gordon, your city engineer, here to give you guys the Southbridge update. So right on schedule and right on cue here. Not a huge amount of updates. We are moving ahead with design. So we had a series of meetings with CDOT over the last couple of weeks to clarify some of the procedures. We have a couple more meetings in the next couple of weeks to kind of clarify those and get some finality. So this would be on some items to reduce scope, to maybe reduce some cost in the Highway 82 corridor, get clarification on the procedures to move forward with the right-of-way purchase, and the easement acquisition, and then lastly to finalize the EA documents. We are looking to have approximately a 50% design from our consultant, end of October, first week in November to review, subsequent then for a CDOT review, which again is kind of one of those milestones to kind of get through the process. So really that 50% is what's required for the EA document. So again, moving pretty quickly. At that point, we'll have better information on total scope, total project costs, and we'll have a better update on some of those things towards the end of November.
Okay, perfect. Thank you so much. Do we have any questions from council? Okay, do we have any questions for the public online? If we can switch over and see if there's anybody here. Looks like we have one hand up. Yay, Meryl. Hi, Meryl. That laughter is of joy. We're grateful you're so committed on this. So, Meryl, go ahead and turn on your mic. We'll move you over to presenter. I think that's what it's called, where she can talk.
Panelists, yeah.
Panelists, thank you. There you go. We can hear you.
There I am. Okay.
Okay.
Let's see. At the last meeting, Councilmember Weimer asked where are we with the value engineering effort, which is I assume is the project cost. And when asked if we were at a number, Lee said yes, but he said he wasn't sure, saying that Ryan, who was not there for a better reason, a birthday party, was better on that number. And I was wondering what that number was. The total cost of the project so far, that the roundabout is still included, and if fencing is included. And I just wanted to say, if these things are included, I won't keep bothering you. So if you
You're-
could.
You're
just
not
look-
a bother. We,
Oh, I
we,
know, I
we're
feel like
so
a
grateful.
pest though. So anyway, but you know, I'm representing the community and
Yeah.
so I feel it's important. So that's it. Again, I yield with time left.
Mhm.
Meryl, thank you for the questions, and that can provide some clarity on that. So again, I would say towards the end of November, we'll have a better idea. Our value engineering process that we did before was kind of more of a high level and kind of taking a hatchet. Now we're kind of in the scalpel mode. We're probably still in that $80 to $85 million range, which does include the roundabout and it does include the sound wall as initially designed. We absolutely want to include those features in some form or fashion. Once we have our better numbers, we'll know better quantities and have a better feel for where inflation and construction costs are. So again, we're still probably that $80 to $85 million right now. We haven't done a whole lot of homework on that, but again, by the end of November, we should have much better concepts and ideas of where we stand.
Perfect. Thank you.
Can I ask, so, I think, and we would have to ask the community, but my understanding is that I don't think everyone wants the big sound wall, but they just want privacy and protection and some mitigation. So I just wanted to put that in. I can't say that for sure without polling everyone, but just wanted to add that to be part of the commitment to save money and not spend money we don't need to spend. So you can count that in your, you can consider that.
Thank you, Meryl. We appreciate it.
And I guess just one follow-up on the sound wall, right? So the sound wall, the need or not need based on the federal requirements will be determined from the EA process and the sound study, which may determine that the big giant sound wall, as Meryl was referring to, was not needed and that something more simpler can be had. So again, when we get to those milestone points, we'll have an additional conversation and bring that back for everybody for discussion.
But it's not a decision.
Oh,
It's not
hold-
your
hold-
decision.
Hold on one second. Can you turn
Sorry,
your,
sorry.
yeah, turn your mic on.
Oh.
There you go.
I was rude. I'm sorry.
okay.
I was just gonna, to clarify, it's not your decision to do or not do the sound wall.
Correct, Council Weimer. So the decision is that the federal government will tell us if a sound wall is required per federal guidelines.
Okay.
That's either a yes or a no. If the answer is yes, then we build the sound wall. If it's no, then we get to decide what goes in there.
Okay,
So that's kind of that determination, yeah.
perfect. Counselor Zelinski.
So I have a question that may sound self-serving, so bear with me. My backyard is Midland. And so I'm curious because as this conversation has been going on, I walk that area quite a bit and I realize that my neighbors and our, backyards are as close to Midland as many of those Cardiff homes are. Does any part of South Midland become impacted in this greater conversation because that is the only place where traffic from Southbridge will end up? More than likely, some of it will divert up 4 Mile, but a great deal of it will continue on west. So is that neighborhood included in the valuation or is it totally separate?
Right, yeah. So the first part is I think there's no doubt that traffic patterns will change on South Midland, in behind the Park West neighborhood. We don't know exactly the extent, but there will certainly be some change. Now that portion of South Midland is not included in any of the conversation we're having. And really particularly because at the onset of when Southbridge project was envisioned, the project boundaries were set just beyond the current 4 Mile roundabout. And so from, at some point you have to end where you're looking at
Understood,
things.
yeah.
And that's just how it sort of happened, many, many years ago when this, 15 years ago when this project was first coming together. So the boundaries were as they were, like I said, to the south of the roundabout, and were not included the other neighborhoods in the South Glenwood area.
Got it.
Thank you. Thank you, Ryan. Anybody else? Okay,
Well,
Ryan, thank
wonderful.
you. Thank you for
I
the
will see
update.
you next time for another update.
Okay, perfect.
Thank you.
Okay, perfect. We will move on to item number 13. This is an award request for qualification 2024. It's the municipal judge appointment. So the update is that earlier this evening, we did interview in a work session, 2 potential municipal judges. However, I'd like to get feedback from you all. You know, obviously we have an option to appoint one this evening. The other option would be to wait until we have a larger group. So yeah, I would like a motion. So Counselor Weimer.
I move to, let's push,
Continue.
continue item number 13, the municipal judge appointment to our next regularly scheduled meeting.
And do I have a second?
Second.
Okay, all those in favor?
Aye.
Any opposed? Motion passes unanimously. So a thank you to both of them that interviewed today, and just a request for a little bit of patience while we get the full council. Thanks all. Item number 14, 2025 budget hearing.
Thank you, Madam Mayor. Staff submitted the 2025 proposed budget in our last meeting. You guys are set to vote on that budget in our next meeting, which is November 7th. This is an opportunity for you to hear from the public about anything they would like to say concerning the 2025 budget.
Great, so we'll open this up then, I guess, to public comment. Anybody here this evening to discuss the 2025 budget? Okay. And how about anybody in the public online wanting to make comments regarding the 2025 budget? Really? I see none. So I'm going to close the public comment section of this item, and I'm going to bring it back to council. I don't think that there's really any discussion. No, so I know it's true. So I look forward to the next regularly scheduled meeting where we will vote to approve this.
Thank you.
Yeah, thank you. Okay, look at number 15. Item number 15, this is the housing development information update.
Yes, indeed it is. Good evening, Mayor and Council, most of Council. I'm going to have a quick presentation for you, recognizing that there's quite a few counselors missing tonight. But this has been something that you guys have requested multiple times in the past to keep apprised of. And it's just great information for you guys to know as you're out about in the community. So I'm going to start with a spreadsheet. And I'm sorry I didn't introduce myself. Hannah Klausman, Community Development Director. I'm going to start with a spreadsheet that I started in 2016 when I started with Glenwood Springs, tracking our residential units, and mostly on the multifamily side. Let's see if I can share screen. And hopefully we'll be able to review this. You have it in your packet. It's a rather large spreadsheet, and I'll zoom in. So this is what community development staff adds to when we get multifamily projects. And by multifamily, I mean 3 units and above. So a triplex and above. I gave you guys 2 spreadsheets because we do have single family and also duplex development, and as well ADUs, which I also wanted you to be aware of. So that was a separate spreadsheet I created for tonight to just give you an update on as well. So this, you can see starts, this is ordered by year. Also the project name, the type, so rental or for sale is also tracked. We've added columns in for our resident occupancy requirements that fall under inclusionary zoning, and our affordability unit requirements that also fall under inclusionary zoning. The total unit count and acres, so you can see what these projects amount to as units per acre. That's also a talking point that we've had in the community that I think sometimes there's some confusion on of what a project usually ends up being. And then the status on the right-hand side, if I can make this a little bit better there. Since we're going back to approvals from 2011, a lot of these are completed, but you can see we do have some that are listed as approved. This one is Lofts Phase 4, which is something that has an entitlement approval. Those last a standard 3 years from the time that City Council or Planning and Zoning Commission approves the project. So this one has not started building yet. They don't have a building permit, but they have an approval until a certain date. So we've got a couple of those on here as well, and I just like to call them out because they're included in the overall number, but that doesn't necessarily equate to it getting built. We've had not a ton of projects, but some projects that go through the approval process, get the approval, and then for any number of reasons, don't actually make it to a building permit. I think I provided an example in your packet of the Rivers project that came before. That was a for sale townhouse project that didn't quite pan out in the end. And so that one is no longer included on this spreadsheet because their entitlement truly has gone away. And then we've also listed some that are under construction currently. A lot of these you will be familiar with. Mountain View Flats is one that we actually need to update because they just got their certificate of occupancy. So this is a living document that staff is in all the time, updating numbers. It's actually part of a much larger spreadsheet that we track a ton more data on of like how many parking spaces, what that amounts to as parking per unit. But that literally cannot fit on a TV screen to digest. So I wanted to keep it simple. I think this is going to be a kind of a short presentation to you guys. And I think it might spur questions that you want to know more about. And that's really what I'm looking for tonight, because I'd like to come back maybe with a longer presentation and address some of those items that you want to see. So this goes through up to present. You can see we get into 2024. Oops, there we go. And we've got the total number of units is this 1,131. So that includes those ones that are approved and not yet built. And that's dating back from 2011. And so we kind of keep track. This is averaged out to about 81 units per year of what has been happening, mostly since 2016, but we threw a couple in there from before because we had some larger affordable housing projects that happened in 2011 that we like to track as well. And then you can see the numbers next to it. These are the affordability and the resident occupied numbers, totals. And so you can see this last one here is the Benedict Senior Housing Project, and 34 of those units are deed restricted for affordability. So those numbers aren't incredibly high. And I'm sure some of your questions have to deal with how does this equate to AMIs from the 2019 Regional Housing Study? Which I'm more than happy to come back and give a more in-depth, but they're fairly low as far as production of those units that were identified as needed in a lot of those studies. But we are keeping track of them. Any questions so far on what staff does with this or about
Any
the spreadsheet
questions?
in general?
Counselor Weimer.
Hannah, when will, it was phase 4
Yes.
up there. When do they lose their entitlement?
So Lofts Phase 4 has an entitlement through the middle of November of this year. And what happens at the end of that entitlement? Yes, coming up in less than a month. They're very aware of that.
Okay.
And what can happen there is there's an allowance for an extension of 1 year of your entitlement with a director approval. Anything longer than that is a city council approval.
Okay.
So that would come to you if they want to try and extend that. And then, of course, as Carl can probably explain, that is a little bit of a negotiation depending on what has happened between the time that they got that entitlement with code and things of that nature. I think the last extension that council saw was on, I forget the Sage. Anyways, city council has granted an extension for 2 years to another development. So that basically keeps what their approval was so that they can come in and get the building permit and eventually build it without having to go back through the entitlement process.
Yeah.
Which for larger projects is anywhere from 6 months to a year. So the approval part is important to developers to hold on to and not let lapse.
And to clarify too, and then Summer, I'll grab your question. So like the Bell Rippey project, that entitlement was actually sold with the property when it sold, correct?
That is a great question,
Okay.
Realtor, Madam Mayor. Yes.
Yes. I actually prefer Madam Real Estate.
Madam
Mayor
Real
real
Estate.
estate, something like that, some derivative of that. ahead.
Queen Regent.
Yeah.
Um, So yes, an entitlement goes with the property. It doesn't necessarily go with a developer.
Yeah.
So they can do deals where they basically sell that, and it's a valuable resource to say, like, we went through the entitlement process, which takes time and money and risk, and sell it to someone else of like, this is ready to go. All you
Sure.
have to do is pull a building permit and you're good. And we've seen activity around that with Lofts Phase 4 of people looking at purchasing, that
The
entitlement.
entitlement.
Yeah.
And if the plans were completed, say that there was actually a set of plans that had been permitted, how long is the vesting period on the plans?
So a building permit has a much shorter period of
Okay.
180 days that you need to show progress on.
Okay.
So once you pull a building permit, you need to start on it or ask for an extension from our building official, Victor Moraz, and explain why. We had a lot of those extensions happen during COVID,
Mhm.
the supply chain,
Sure.
of why they couldn't get things done in that amount of time. So those can go on, but you need to show some sort of progress, an
Mhm.
inspection, or calling for things for the building permit. But if you don't do anything on it, your building permit will expire in 180 days.
Okay.
And then you'd have to come in, you might be able to submit the exact same set of
Yeah.
plans, but as we know, codes can change. And developers often submit building permits ahead of code changes to, let's say, not do sprinkler systems in homes. So
Okay.
then when you let it expire and you come back in, you have to meet the standard at that time. So
Yep.
that doesn't happen super often, but rarely.
Counselor Schachter.
Two questions of me, Hannah. One, do you have any off from your head? What's applied for that's not on this list at this point?
So that would be projects just starting the process, in like pre-application or just application.
And what the pipeline might look like the next year?
It's always hard to tell.
Mhm.
There are a couple projects hanging out there, some like medium size, which is always kind of medium infill is kind of exciting to see come in on the redevelopment side. So I'm trying to kind of get you a unit count. About like 200 units. It's kind of
Mostly-
hanging out there as
Maybe.
possibilities.
Yeah.
Maybe.
Some are very, they're very dependent on, you've seen the Glenwood Gardens project is
Right.
what I'm thinking of. They are applying for a LIHTC.
Yeah.
If they don't get that award, then it's very up in the air if they move forward.
And the bulk of them rental, as far as you know, as far as you.
Yes, and you can also see that from this.
Right.
Very,
Yes.
very few units that are for sale.
My,
Which is obviously something that council has identified as a priority. We need more for sale units.
We
This
do.
spreadsheet confirms that. We really aren't seeing that. That has to do with a lot of different things, construction, liability defects that you guys are familiar with.
Yep.
It's just not a product that we're seeing come in.
so my last kind of question is, when you look at this, you go, oh my gosh, we don't have much affordable. It's 15% of all the units built, which is better than not.
Mhm.
But we have way more affordable deed restricted units in Glenwood. Do you have we had a little list. I mean, we got Match Booth, we got the Blake and Bennett units, we've got a bunch of others. Do you have an idea what our total number of deed restricted are at this point?
You guys
If
always
not, we can
pitch
look
me
it,
the
I can look it
questions
up. There's some
I
numbers.
didn't confirm. We do have that spreadsheet that tracks it, and we've got the unit counts for those as well.
Yeah.
They're not included in this because they were built prior to when
Sure.
this was started tracking. And I don't know the unit count off the top of my head, but there is more than these numbers. These
Right.
are just, and a good thing for what you're looking at, the 60 and 162 units that are deed restricted to affordability. This is the majority our inclusionary zoning program, and that didn't come back on the books until 2021.
Mhm.
So that's an even shorter time period that those have been developing than the rest of the spreadsheet. So we're not doing terrible, but we are starting out from a smaller place than a lot of the communities that are up valley of us.
So the last thing, if I may. We, what do we have in Glenwood, like 4,800 units or something like that? Somewhere around there? and there are never enough affordable, but do you have a general feel for what's considered a reasonable percentage these days for communities to have affordable, particularly in our size?
I do not
Is there any metric out there that we know?
have that.
I think we have way more than people are aware of. So
Probably.
anyway, just, and.
I mean, we're in an interesting valley. You've got one of the oldest housing authorities in the nation
Mhm.
Up
at
valley,
one end.
right.
Yep.
And also, Eagle County Housing Authority, which is just kind of a powerhouse in our region. So they kind of set a higher standard. And then you have communities that are around us that have,
None.
zero. They might have some naturally occurring affordable housing, but none in like the actual truly deed restricted realm. That's a hard number to average out, but I can try at a later date.
No, I think we can get it online too. Thank you.
Probably.
Perfect. Counselor Zelinski.
You might have already called this out. I was looking in the 2022, the 3401 South Grand. It's just blank. So I was wondering what's
I'm sorry, did you say the 3381?
the 3401 South Grand? It says for sale.
Yeah,
It says 3 units, but then there's nothing. It's not under construction. It's not approved. It's not completed. So I was curious. Right where
That
your
one,
cursor
my
is.
apologies, is approved. Yes,
It is. Okay.
that was an administrative project on the triplex side, so it is approved. They have not yet pulled a
Got it.
building
Okay.
permit.
Got it. And then in the instance of, like loft, would one of these that are rentals, if they should convert, then does this graph change?
So you're referring kind of to the Habitat project?
Correct.
Yes. So this spreadsheet was started to track things that were coming online. You make a really great point because something that's not represented in this spreadsheet is the hotel conversion.
Yeah.
So that is the one that we've got completed. The other one is
Right.
still under construction. So we don't count the units until we don't count our chickens.
Which is fair point.
So there's an extra 65 units that's not reflected here that are deed restricted. That weren't like new construction, they were
Right.
remodeling. So kind of different, but
You
so.
almost need another graph.
Yeah, almost. But so we would change, you can see lofts phase 3 is actually on this list. So we would actually move that over, to the units that fit the criteria of whatever AMI they're in at.
Got it. Got it.
Are you all set?
Yeah.
Okay. I have one question. I'm not seeing, or I'm not 100% sure which one it is. The project where it was, well, I know it as Penelope's, but Rivers, Penelope's, is that on here?
So it's not on here, and that's because the project is no longer happening.
But just like the one in Lofts, it
That
has,
still has an entitlement.
and this doesn't?
That's an interesting question.
Sorry.
So on this one,
Yeah.
the Lofts phase 4 has an entitlement, and the developer has told us they are still working on things.
Yeah.
The Rivers project was a full removal of the project.
Okay.
So technically an entitlement still exists on that. If someone came in, we have not heard from those developers at all, nor have they given us any inclination that they're moving forward with that project that was approved.
Okay.
So sometimes you truly will have a project that conditions change so much for a
Yeah.
variety of factors that it won't be moving forward, and the developer hasn't given us that information. So we actually removed that one because we truly don't think
Yeah.
that's going to come in. So those
Okay.
units are more theoretical. That's a different tab on the spreadsheet.
Oh, that's not included.
Madam
That's what-
Mayor.
Yeah.
The in-house, maybe possibly theoretical projects.
Yeah. Okay. That's a fascinating spreadsheet. I'd love to see it someday.
Yeah.
I like.
I would be more
have
than happy
tours?
to show you.
Like 6 screens.
Right.
Totally.
We'll show it in here, maybe. Yeah.
Okay. Okay. Do we have any additional questions? Okay, I will open it up to the public. Are there any questions? Anybody here this evening to discuss this item? And then we'll also check and see if anybody is online. Does not look like we have either of those, so we will close this public comment portion, bring it back to council for a big old dose of gratitude. Thank you. We have been asking for
Good.
this for a while.
Yes. you
Yes, so
have.
thank
And
you.
I think for my purposes, when you guys see this information, if there are those aspects that you want follow up on or further, you want me to take the 2019 regional housing study and show you where all these fall into in
Yeah.
AMI categories to show you our progress on those needs. More than happy to do that. This was kind of a fast thing to add to your agenda, so it wasn't as robust as it could be. If that's
Okay.
something that you guys want to see, we can certainly schedule it and allow myself a little bit more time for the bigger spreadsheet.
Totally. I would love to have planning and zoning see this if they haven't already. And
Yes.
I would like when we do a more, I was just gonna use that word because that is the word to use. When you do that, I'd also like to see one that has a category called like our housing 1, 2, 3 or whatever, whatever.
Yes.
Yeah.
Mhm.
Okay.
That was also something
Okay.
I started working on and I just didn't have enough time.
okay.
So.
It's okay. Hannah,
to bring
thank
it back
you
to you.
so much.
You're
Oh,
welcome.
wait, Erin has one.
Uh,
Counselor Salinsky.
one more question, kind of derived from that conversation. Is this something that's being shared with our, WFAB and is WFAB and PC, are they the same?
Yes.
Thank you.
Okay,
got-
there is a housing.
I got,
committee.
well, there's a housing
Yeah.
committee, which is a whole separate, that's why I was trying
Yeah.
to make sure I got all my entities. But is this something that's being shared with them? I think that would be important in that portfolio as well.
Yes, we do try and keep them updated on this because it helps inform, policies that come before you guys
Right.
as well. And Planning and Zoning Commission has seen this also, and they have also asked for periodic updates as this comes through. So to Counselor Schachter's question of like, what's 2025 look like? We're also asking that question and want to bring that back to you when they become more solid projects so that you can see what's coming down.
And will this be used to frame the policy? We had asked for WFAB to have kind of some direction, some ideas, so that when we are asked to weigh in on decisions, we're making sure that we're kind of seeing that larger vision. Would this factor into that?
Certainly, yeah. I think when they, WFAB has their implementation kind of generic outline of this much, 50% of the funds go towards rental, 50% of the funds go towards purchase, and looking at that, this kind of helps lend credibility to maybe we should have that be 60% going towards for sale, or maybe we really need to find a program that's incentivizing for sale projects as much as possible. It's very, very challenging.
Yeah.
So this certainly informs that because they can look at all the last 25 projects that we've had in basically 10 years, and they're all rental. It's just informative to help you guide what you're going to attempt to do, even though it might be very, very hard.
Yeah, cool.
But we have a
Thank you.
great housing development manager now with a lot of capacity, so things are moving.
Absolutely. Awesome. Yep, perfect. Okay. I'm all set. Is everybody else? Any other questions? Otherwise, we'll let Hannah get on with her night.
Thank you very much.
Hannah. We appreciate you. Okay, we'll move on to item number 16. This is an amendment to an ordinance that we previously passed at the last meeting. Legal counsel Carl Hanley.
Yeah, thank you, Madam Mayor. This is a really small amendment to that ordinance that we just adopted on second reading.
Yep.
Became clear, like kind of at the end of that hearing, that there was still some confusion over where the proper, or where the city municipal boundaries were relative to the South Bridge project. In South Glenwood, we have just added a sentence in here to more clearly define that as far as that project exclusion goes, and that's it.
Okay, perfect. Any questions from council? Then I'll open it for public comment. We have no public comment here. Anybody online? Anybody here to discuss this? Okay, then we'll go ahead and close the public comment, bring it back to council for a motion. Councilor Schachter.
Madam Mayor, I would move regarding agenda item ordinance 25-24, a clarifying ordinance amending ordinance 1924, that we pass the item.
Okay.
Hey, second.
We have a motion, we have a second, we have a few giggles. All those in favor?
Hi.
Aye.
Any opposed? Motion passes unanimously. Okay, move on to item number 17. This is ordinance 2024-20. This is our third quarter budget amendment. This is first reading.
One reading.
Oh, it's only one reading.
One
Thank you.
Good evening, Mayor and Council. I'm Steve Boyd, City Manager. Each quarter, at the end of the quarter, we amend our budget for the current year to account for things that weren't in the original budget, things that council has asked us to do that we didn't originally budget. And we reduce the budget for things that we either aren't going to get done this year or carry over to next year. So this is a routine budget amendment for the third quarter.
Thank you. And thank you for the accountability of what we do. This is the process. You're very consistent, so thank you. Bring it back to council for any questions. Open it up for public comment. Anyone online? Looks like there is not anyone online, so we'll bring it back to council for a motion. Counselor Weimer.
Madam Mayor, I move to approve ordinance 2024-20, budget amendment number 4.
Second?
All those in favor?
Aye.
Any opposed? Motion passes unanimously.
Thank
Thank
you.
you. Okay, item number 18. This is a discussion regarding ordinance 2024-21, expanding our boards and commissions by 1 youth member. First reading. So a little background for those at home. Yep.
Certainly. We had a work session last meeting. One of the discussion points of that was to whether or not and on kind of what terms we should be opening up our boards and commissions to having a youth representative. And I think there was testimony from a couple of the council members about how effective and helpful having youth members on the couple of boards and commissions that we currently do. Council gave direction to bring back an ordinance on first reading to accomplish that. I took the opportunity to also eliminate the airport board since that has been moved over to a different board, different contracts. And so with that, I'm happy to answer any questions. I think we got it all right with what I heard from council the last time. With that, happy to answer questions.
Do we have any questions? Okay, we'll open it to public comment. Anybody online here to discuss this item, this ordinance regarding youth members on our boards and commissions? Okay, bring it back to council for motion. Counselor Zelinski.
I move to approve ordinance 2024-21, which expands the boards and commissions by 1 youth member and also removes the airport board from. And your lid.
Second.
Okay, all those in favor?
Aye.
Oh, we have a question.
Just a quick question.
Okay, yeah, go ahead. Let's get your, there you go.
Carl, what is the purpose of like under Parks and Rec Commission? This was something I just noticed when I was reading through it before. You've got a couple paragraphs in there that are just reserved. What is that? Why do we do that?
And actually those on second reading, I'll probably strike those. It had originally been, if you'll see sub D, that we are striking and just including like we did with everything else. At some point, rather than amend B and C, strike them and move D up to B. Apparently when code was updated at some point in the past, they just decided to leave those in place and say reserved rather than to change the numbering.
Move everything
That's all it
around.
is.
Okay.
So I will go ahead. Did you need?
Nope.
Okay, great. We'll go ahead and call the question. Let's have Ryan do this one. Just shake it up.
Counselor Zelinski.
Okay.
Oh,
Right.
Ryan, that was it too. We can't even do a do-over because we're pretty much through.
it's unanimous. It
This is
passes.
first reading. Exactly. Okay, motion passed unanimously. That's a really exciting update, I think. I think having this, it is cool. I hope more, yeah. I think it'll be great if kids join in. Actually, since our next item is council comments, I will just mention that today, Erin and I had an opportunity to meet with a group of our local kids today, learning about civics in this room. And they asked wonderful questions. Yeah, They really did. They were great. Brianna, a little shout out. Thank you for helping organize that. Yeah, they were, it's great to have them here. Anybody else have public comment? Counselor Zelinski.
I think I'm okay to say this, but I'm very excited to let the community know that they will begin being able to attend our recreational center on Sundays, starting November 10th. I'm not entirely sure what the hours are. I think they'll be similar to what they were prior to COVID when the time changed. But this is something that has been requested more than once, and we have heard it, and our amazing city manager and financial people found a way to make it happen. And so, you know, we appreciate the feedback from the community, which helps us inform these decisions so that we are truly serving you in the way that you expect. So kudos to everybody.
Counselor Schachter, Counselor Weimer, anything?
No.
Okay. I do want to also mention our gratitude to RAFTA and CDOT. We had the opportunity on Tuesday to go to a ribbon cutting. And it was a project that we, within my term, actually got, asked for the funding, got the funding, started the project, finished the project, and celebrated it, and did a ribbon cutting on the first day it was open, which is oddly unique. Usually it's like, it's been open for a little while and then we all celebrate it. So that whole process just reminded me of the power of collaboration, because there were so many people there that day who had all had a hand in creating this increased, absolutely necessary safety component to our community. And I saw people on bikes, I saw people in wheelchairs, I saw people just knowing that they can safely go from one side of Grand Avenue to the other. And one of the facts that I mentioned with regard to the speech I made was that this summer, 28,000 vehicles per day at that intersection, 28,000. It was, a difficult location to be building, and yet they did it. They did it on time. That's RAFTA and CDOT. They did it on time and they did it at budget. But I would be remiss if I didn't say thank you to the police department, because when you have 28,000 cars and delays for construction, inevitably there's some conflict, and you guys helped us manage that. And we so respect and appreciate the work you do.
Thank you.
Thank you. Very good. Well, with that, I guess we'll switch it on over to city manager.
Thank you. I just wanted to give a quick shout out to our acting police chief, Chief Hassel. As we've become a little bit more staffed in police, we have had a lot more officers and a lot more units out in the world, on the streets, walking parks, and I think that's made a big difference. Thank you.
Thank you. Awesome. Okay. Carl Hanlon.
Really, the only thing is, speaking of,
Whoops. I guess he has questions for you. Usually we don't, but we totally can. I mean, it's just the four of us. We're kind of making the rules
I
tonight.
just wondered.
Yeah, go ahead. There you go. Mhm. Yeah.
Well, I'll let Steve decide if it's appropriate. Can we get any updates now that it's public on the Habitat closing of the apartment and any status on 8th and Midland? Any updates on those?
Yes, we're at the end of that. For any specifics, I think I'm going to defer to our legal counsel.
Since it's been in the paper.
yeah, we are, these deals have a tendency to be a lot of review between 6 and 11 PM at night, which is kind of what Steve and I have been doing this week. So I think we're there on documents. We were up until 4:59 today, I think. Was that when you got the text? There were still some deal points that were unclear. Well, we had clarity on.
Yeah.
No, not unclear here. Anyway, so it looks like that is set to close on Tuesday of next week. And assuming everything is completely in place, the city will be wiring money into that closing on the 21st, on Monday. So moving forward.
Do we know if 8th and Midland is moving forward at all? The confluence, other.
Oh, the other, yeah,
Resources to do that.
the person who could have told us that has left the building.
Yeah.
And the last one is, where are we? Do you have a charter review committee already, or where's that
Yeah.
process?
Yeah, we're still in the recruiting phase of that, but I think in the next meeting, we'll be able to give you guys a quick update.
Thank you.
Great.
Thank you.
As a reminder, I'm going to jump back in for just a second and say that as a reminder, we are still taking applications for our council appointment, for our city council appointment. They are available online on our website and or contact us, citycouncil@cogs.us, and we're happy to send you the link to that. And one thing about the habitat, I want to clarify. I did have a chance to talk to Gail Schwartz. There's feedback circulating that they're going to sell these and the people that are living there will be displaced. What I'm hearing is that we recognize, and certainly Habitat recognizes, how important it is to have stability. So one, from a legal perspective, every one of those leases will be honored until the end of that lease. In addition, if one of the current leaseors, which one is it, Carl? Lessee, thank you. Is not in a position to buy or doesn't want to buy, but still needs housing, Gail has secured additional apartments for them to move into so that no one, they will have the inconvenience of moving, but they will not be displaced out of the community. She has secured some additional housing opportunities for people to move into, because obviously there are community members and we want them to be able to stay if they so choose. So that was my updates that I wanted to mention. Carl, do you have anything else?
Just real quick, just because I know it's something that a lot of us are interested in. We are about a week away from filing the amicus brief in the Uinta Railway case. That has turned into a really kind of cool coalition, including Grand County, is signing on to that brief. And when you think about just the diversity of types of communities and counties, super proud of the kind of the work that goes into bringing all those voices together, and hopefully it makes a difference at the Supreme Court, as that NEPA review is so critical to our smaller communities on having a voice in these large projects. So thank you guys for being a leader on that.
Absolutely. Do you also want to do a Shoshone update?
Grinding along, trying to, I believe the notice on the notice of funding opportunity, the NOFO, is still active.
Yeah.
That was extended. I think I have a call. We usually have them every other Thursday. I have a call next Thursday, kind of with the group about where we're at and how things are progressing. So I will have something for you at the next meeting, and hopefully that is the grant has been submitted, and we're just kind of waiting to hear on that.
Okay, awesome. I did think I saw that there was a letter of support that went out. We included all both governors and a bunch of other people.
Yeah, there was a pretty widespread letter of support that went out. And I think everybody kind of got on board in the state, which was good to see. I
Yeah,
know we
absolutely.
were having some nudging issues when we were in DC with
Right, me too.
some of the delegation, but I think everybody got on board, and certainly at the state level, legislators, things like that, we're seeing a lot of support for it.
Thank you. Okay, well, with that in mind, does anybody want to announce a council social event evening? I'm not going to be coming out with you, but yeah, I think.
I think a rain
It's,
check's
tonight
in
is a
order.
council antisocial event. We're
Rain
all going
checks.
home. Yes, rain check. Then I will look for a motion to adjourn. Counselor Zelinski,
I move to adjourn.
and a second.
Second.
All those in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
Okay. Thank you all so much for coming this evening. Have a great night.
We talking because it's like